ॐ यो देव सवितास्माकं धियो धर्मादिगोचराः प्रेरयेत्तस्य यद्भर्गः तद्वरेण्यम् उपास्महे।
We are seeing Viveka Chudamani. Somewhere around 315-20, but we have already. You remember the last verse in the class? Because everything looks familiar, like I have already seen it.
You said 310, not 50. Yes. I think it was 310.
310? That's what brings it back to life, like the citron tree. That's one?
Mm-hmm.
I finished with that. Okay. So 311. देहात्मना संस्थित एव कामी विलक्षणः कामयिता कथं स्यात् अतोऽर्थ संधान परत्वमेव भेदप्रसक्त्या भवबन्धहेतुः। देहात्मना संस्थित एव कामी विलक्षणः कामयिता कथं। Dehatmana samstitah, the person who is established in the identification with the body. Dehatmana means the idea that I am the body, the idea about oneself based on the body. Self-definition through the body means identification with the body as oneself. The person who is samstitah means the one who is established in that kind of consciousness, or we should not say consciousness. The one who is having that buddhi, dehatma buddhi, that person alone is a kami. Kami means the one who is subject to the process of desire. Even that person alone can be one who is desiring. Kami means the one who desires. Here it is written as greedy. It is not greedy. It is the one who is susceptible to desire. Vilakshanaha. Without that, vilakshana means the person who does not have this buddhi that I am the body. How that person can desire? Kamayita katham. How can he be the one who is desiring things? How is it possible for him to desire things? How can be? Ataha arthasandhana paratvam eva. If you are asked how that is possible, artha sandhana paratvam eva bheda prasaktya bhavabandha hetu. Artha sandhana paratvam, the tendency to ruminate over sense object. Artha sandhana paratvam, that means fixing of value in external objects. That is what it is. Artha sandhana paratvam, here it means, artha means value, content. Attributing reality and content to other things other than yourself. First, there is imagination that there are things other than me. Later in a few verses we will see that where the person who is devoted to the knowledge that I am Brahman must not encourage even the slightest sense of duality. As long as there is another, so long the fear does not leave a person, like that we have in the Upanishad. All that is coming later. So it is artha sandhana paratvam eva, that alone means what alone? By attributing value and content and reality and desirability to other things other than oneself. And the things that are the objects of the five senses. Veda prasaktya, which arises from the idea of duality. How do you attribute artha sandhana paratvam? How do you attribute value and reality to other things because of the idea of duality. That is a firm idea of duality that is habituated in the buddhi. Because of that, we tend to attribute reality to the other things. Means here the objects of the senses. This habit is the Bhavabandha Hetu. This is the cause of the bondage of samsara. Who identifies the reality of sense? How can the one without the body idea be desiring? Hence, the tendency to ruminate over sense objects is verily the cause of bondage of the worldly existence and the sense of duality. Here, the context is the tendency or the habitual, ingrained habit of the mind to relate with sense objects for the purpose of gratification. The habit of desire and fulfilling desire through the different interactions with the objects of senses. This reinforces the idea of duality. Because it reinforces the idea of duality, it sustains the cycle of samsara. Desire. Then कार्य प्रवर्धनात् बीज प्रवृत्तिः परिदृश्यते. Because of the proliferation of the effect, the seed is considered also to grow. Because of the growth of the effect, there is growth of the seeds. This is observed in our everyday life. Karyanashat bijanashat. If the effects are destroyed, the source or the seed or the cause of the effects are also destroyed. Tasmat karyam nirodhe. So it is necessary to practice restraint of the effect. Like, what is the bijam? What is the seed? The seed is the dualistic mentality of entertaining or dualistic mentality of defining reality as names and forms, objects of the senses. Every object of a sense, some nice thing to see, some nice music to hear, some good smell, some nice touch. So all these are all different sense-based enjoyments. Now these are all, why they are valuable? Because of the dualistic idea which polarizes the experience into the experiencer and the experience. You identify yourself with the experiencer. So you create Dehatma Buddhi, that is, I am as an individual based on your identification with the body. Because you create that, also simultaneously you create reality of the object. This object is real. No? There is a sense of content and the reality and the solidity and relevance that we give for the objects of the senses. So the object of a sense becomes relevant because of my identification with the body. Now this is the dualistic thinking. Dualistic thinking means there is me, there is other. This is the seed. Because of that, the different sense of enjoyments and the habit patterns of being an enjoyer, being a doer, bhoktrutvam, kartrutvam, the tendency to be a doer, the habit of considering oneself as the doer and the enjoyer, that keeps increasing. That is the karya. Because of the seed of duality, the effect of indulgence is growing. Now, if I stop the indulgence, the root does not get reinforced. Now, this is for a person who has already awakened the discrimination. The person who has already awakened viveka, for that person, sense control is very important. If the person has not awakened the viveka, if you reduce the indulgence with the objects of the senses, the mind becomes available for viveka. So that is the extended meaning of this verse. When the effects are flourishing, the seeds are also observed to increase. When the effects are destroyed, the seeds are also destroyed. Therefore, effect must be subdued. This is a good translation. In every enjoyment that I indulge myself, it reinforces the corresponding idea of duality. And I learn to consider myself in so many ways. I like chocolate ice cream. I like espresso coffee. I like jazz music. Like this, a person has a lot of definitions, self-definitions, subconsciously ingrained in oneself, based on one's status of being an enjoyer of different objects. See, so if the enjoyment becomes more, the seed of duality which is corresponding to that enjoyment becomes reinforced, and the person, it is like wearing, you have a special hairstyle, or like the flag of the football team with which is whose match you are going to watch. Your whole hairstyle changes because your identity is based on the football team for whom you are supporting. So now, karya pravarta bija pravrti. By the effect, when the effect becomes too much, every increase in the effect creates increase in the seeds. Just like how when a seed sprouts into a tree, from one tree comes thousands and millions of seeds, and from each seed comes a tree, and from that tree comes thousands of seeds. In the same way, because of dualistic thinking, indulgence comes. If I indulge in the indulgence, it is like putting water and fertilizer and everything for that seed, and it sprouts into a plant. I keep on feeding it. What happens? It grows and then produces more seeds. Here also it means the bijam, the seed of karma, the seed of transmigration. That is how the whole tree of life grows. Urdhva moolam madashakam ashvattam prahuravyayam. The 15th chapter begins like this. The tree with the samsara tree, with the roots above and the branches below. Chandam chiyascha varnani vastam vedasa vedavid. In that he says, asanga shastrena dridhena chitva. The person who is devoted to moksha should cut this tree with the sword of vairagya. Asanga means non-association. That is what is talked here. Subdue the effect. Means do not associate with the different objects of the senses. Do not indulge in the different objects of the senses. And then asanga satvena dridena chitva means by firm commitment. Dridena chitva, by the intellect that is resolved to contemplate on the reality of oneself. So, Viveka Vairagya. Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam tam nirodha. Patanjali Yoga Sutra says the different distractions have to be overcome by repeated devotion to the practice of concentration, discrimination, etc., combined with detachment and dispassion. Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam. If you take Philokalia, in Philokalia, chapter after chapter, they talk about discrimination, dispassion, discrimination, dispassion. Wherever you go, there is no escape from this. Even if somebody raises your Kundalini for free, discrimination and dispassion cannot be discounted. Without that, there is no hope. Then what happens? If without dispassion and discrimination, if you get into Kundalini, Kundalini will make the sense objects much more enthralling. Instead of watching, what is it? Beyonce. Beyonce. Instead of watching Beyonce's novel video, you will be watching Apsara Kanyas in Indraloka. Just the Kundalini will take you to Indraloka. You will enjoy celestial damsels. And if you are a woman, you will, instead of Brad Pitt, there will be Lord Indra, Lord Agni, Varuna, all those great beings in the Brahmaloka. You will see them Gandharvas. All this Kundalini will show. That is all. But the sense indulgence continues. So Kundalini is not the solution. Viveka Vairagya is the solution. That is why I am telling this here is because the central point of Abhyasa is Viveka, and the central point of way of life, the lifestyle, is Vairagya. So Viveka Vairagya is not only mental Vairagya, Vairagya is also physical Vairagya. Physical Vairagya means I do only what is absolutely necessary, and I always see, can I be without this? Every time I come from a sense of duty, sense of it has to be done? Do I relate with an object from the sense of dharma, or do I relate with the object with the sense of personal like and dislike? This one has to constantly keep observing oneself. When we do that, we know how much of Vairagya is there. So this talk of mental Vairagya without physical Vairagya will not work. That is what he is repeatedly insisting in the next few verses, that the contact with the sense objects has to be under control, has to be restrained. Vasana vriddhita karyam karya vriddhitaya cha vasana vriddhate sarvata punsah samsaro na nivartate. Through the increase of the different residual tendencies, sense of doership, karyam vriddhidah karyam. Karyam means the effect, which is different indulgences and different actions that are done for the sake of satisfying those desires, that increases. And when there is an increase in this kind of desire-based action, there is an increase of desire also reciprocally. Like when you satisfy a desire, it is like pouring ghee into the fire. India, if it is India, if it is West, probably pouring petrol into the fire. Okay? Thus, a person's transmigration never comes to an end, because here the importance is given for Vairagya and Vasana Kshayam. Vasana Kshayam, as I told you in the last class, there are two schools. One school does not agree on Vasana Kshayam. What is Vasana Kshayam?
Removal of tendencies of leftover.
Clearing the mind of residual tendencies for activity, different kinds of vasanas. Tendencies regarding the world, tendencies regarding one's relationships, tendencies regarding the scripture and study and knowledge. So different kinds of tendencies are there. Loka vasana, Vishaya vasana, Shastra vasana. So these vasanas have to be completely eliminated in order that the mind can dwell upon the truth of the self uninterruptedly without any obstacle. Like the story of Jatabharata, I told you, one great sage, at the time of death, he was very worried about that little deer that he was taking care, and then he had to be born again as a deer in spite of being enlightened. Then, like in the Zen movie, they say enlightenment is timeless and the practice is also timeless. Full time, till the body drops, that will come. So, the person transmigration comes because of the power of the vasanas and the tendency to act. No? Samsara bandha vichityai tad dvayam pradahedyatihi Vasana vruddhiretabhyam chintaya kriyaya bali. In order to snap the chain of transmigration, one should burn to ashes these two desires, the vasanas and the karyam. The vasanas and the actions which are caused by the vasanas. For dwelling on sense objects and doing actions for gratification leads to increase of vasanas or desires. Yatihi means the one. Yati here means the one who is devoted to the life of austerity, and yati here actually means a sannyasi. Okay? But what we can say, yatihi means yatnaha, the one who is putting effort, the one who is ready to put committed effort for the purpose of perfecting the knowledge. That person is a yati, we can say. Vasana vriddhihi etabhyam Chintya, thinking of sense objects, kriyaya. The vasanas grow by the thinking of the sense objects and the actions that are in keeping with the thinking of external objects. So, how, for example, how this happens? How the thinking and the vasana and the vasana action cycle, how it keeps reinforcing and propagating itself comes. The next one. Nourished by these two. Thinking about the sense object is one, and the action for the purpose of gratification, which is powered by the thinking, which follows the thinking, this is the second. Nourished by these two things, the vasanas further produce one's transmigration. These three, however, are destroyed by looking upon everything under all circumstances, always. Sarvatra sarvataha. What are the three? The seed, the desire, and the action. All these three. The seed, which is the dualistic thinking, the vasanas, and the actions which are caused by the thinking. All these three are, however, are destroyed by looking upon everything under all circumstances, always as Brahman and everywhere. Right? So this is connected to the next verse. Everywhere and in all respects as Brahman and Brahman alone. Through the strengthening of the longing to be one with Brahman, those three will be eliminated. Dwelling on the sense object, actions centered on self-gratification, and the vasanas that are in the background. So the vasanas, the habit of thinking about the sense objects in terms of enjoyment and dwelling upon the sense objects and their qualities, nature, how I can enjoy, etc. And the actions that are consequence of the thinking. Vasana leads to thinking. More thinking and deliberating on it and encouraging the thinking strengthens the vasana. If you act on it, it strengthens the thinking pattern plus the vasana, and which in turn increases the probability or the possibility or the compulsion to act next time. So the more I think, I reinforce the vasana. The more the vasana gets reinforced, next time the same thinking comes with double force, and if I act on that, that reinforces the thinking and vasana, and the next time the compulsion to act will be much more than before. So these three, how to eliminate these three? By dwelling upon everything as Brahman. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. All that is here is Brahman alone. I am Sarvam Hetu Brahma. I am Brahma. Everything is one. Suppose if you don't understand what is Brahman, what can help is the one who does not have knowledge. The one who does not have knowledge can think everything is Ishvara, your deity. If you have a personal deity, you see everything as a deity. Everything is deity. Means, like for example, the Prakriti. We know that from the Vedanta, we know that the different 5 elements comes from Ishvara. They are sustained by Ishvara. They go back into Ishvara. So the Brahman for you is Ishvara. If you have not understood that I am Brahman, for you Brahman is Ishvara. So you see everything as Ishvara. When you see everything as Ishvara, the dualistic tendency is gone. When the dualistic tendency is gone, the sense of doership and enjoyership doesn't get reinforced. So the vasana cannot sprout. Only when you give a specific reality to the name and form of an object, and in relation to you, how that object can contribute to my enjoyment or whatever. If it is how this object can contribute to my suffering, then it becomes fear. How this object can contribute to my enjoyment, then it becomes desire. So desire, fear, both are nothing but desire. So by removing the name and form and contemplating on the reality, which is the same in all 3 periods of time, the Sadvastu, the reality on which the appearance happens. Like when you see a wave, instead of thinking about this is a big wave, that is a small wave, you see this is water. Like that, you see everything as Ishvara. By this thinking, these 3, the vasana, the thinking and the actions will be eliminated. This will also strengthen the longing to be one with Brahman. Means Sadbhava vasana dhridaya, Sadbhava vasana dadharyat, Sadbhava vasana dardhyat. Okay, it's a compounded word. Sadbhava vasana dardhyat. Here, Sadbhava, here it is strong thinking of the longing to be one with reality. That is not his right translation. Sadbhava vasana dardhyat means strengthening, very dridha. Dridha means very unshakable, firm like a rock. Okay, unshakable reinforcement of the tendency to contemplate on that which is the absolute reality. Reinforcement of the vasana of contemplating on Brahman. Okay. By looking upon everything as Brahman, you reinforce that vasana for this contemplation on Brahman, which eliminates. The power of this vasana, it's called, after you reinforce the vasana of contemplation, the mind is habituated to contemplate. How a normal indulgent person is so naturally contemplating on different objects and how he can enjoy. This person who is devoted to Brahman is naturally able to contemplate on the truth of that everything is Brahman. So the mind, that is the entire transformation of the vasana. The vasana to enjoy becomes a vasana to contemplate on the reality. So this strengthening of this vasana, what will it do? It will give a certain power. It has a certain power. The power is called Nirodha Samskara. The Nirodha Samskara means the tendency of the mind to be withdrawn, to stay in one's own source. The mind stays on the point from where the mind arises. The movement of the mind does not happen. The tendency of the mind to be quiet and unshakable. So when an object presents in front of itself, the mind does not respond to the object. The mind stays put in contemplation. This is called Nirodha Samskara. When this Nirodha Samskara becomes very strong, the vasanas, the thinking and the actions get eliminated. That is it. Kriyanashe bhave chintanasho asmat vasana kshayah. Vasana prakshayo mokshaha sa jivan muktirishyate. Here it is a stuti. Stuti means an exaggerated presentation of the value of one aspect of the teaching. Okay. So whenever there is a stuti, we should not take it literally. So then the fellow, the school which is talking about no need of vasanakshaya, that person will jump when they read this. When the end of actions, kriya nashe, when the actions that are done for the sake of gratification here, when the action is ending, brooding over the sense object ends gradually, which is followed by the destruction of the vasana. The final destruction of vasana prakshaye moksha. Liberation is nothing but complete destruction of all the vasanas. Prakshaya means removal, destruction, made ineffective. I destroyed the seeds by roasting. If you roast the seeds, it cannot sprout anymore. So all the vasanas get roasted in the fire of jnana. That is the idea. So when all the vasanas get roasted, when all the vasanas are destroyed, means when the vasanas become incapable of pulling you into samsara anymore, that is moksha. Vasanakshaya is moksha. So say the Jivan Muktas. This is regarded as liberation while you are alive. This is called Sa Jivan Mukti Rishyate. This is referred to as Jivan Mukti. When would you call a person as Jivan Mukta? A person whose mind is completely free from all the vasanas and it is constantly devoted to the contemplation on the truth of oneself as Brahman, uninterruptedly. That person is called as a Jivan Mukta, according to Viveka Chudamani. So why it is told like this is because, why it is a stuti. This gives the importance for not taking the vasanas lightly. Okay, I got enlightened, I know I am Brahman. Okay, then go and have fun. That will not work. Even though you know you are Brahman, it is very important to keep the mind in check. And the mind in check is not an easy joke. It is 24-hour job, full time, till the body falls, till the karma is completely exhausted. So this importance is being given here. Because the knowledge is already told. For example, the whole Viveka Chudamani, it was telling, what is the use of control, what is the use of concentration if there is no self-knowledge. Such statements came before. But now he is saying, Vasanakshaya is moksha. But previously what he said, the knowledge of the oneness of the individual and the supreme, the knowledge that I am Brahman is moksha. Jnana devata kaivalyam. It is very clearly said. Jnana alone is moksha. Then how do you say Vasanakshaya is moksha? Means to thee, it is extolling the importance of destruction of vasana. It should not be taken literally. It should be taken as very, very important. So if you don't have commitment to the knowledge, because here Vasanakshaya indicates commitment to the self-knowledge. If the person is very, very committed to the self-knowledge, the mind will not indulge in dualistic thinking, which means there cannot be active enjoyment or active doership or enjoyership. So automatically there is Vasanakshaya. So you can take it as Jnana Nishtha. If you say Vasanakshaya equal to Jnananishta, being established in the knowledge is Vasanakshaya. This complete Vasanakshaya means completely being established in the knowledge. That alone is Jivanmukti. Okay. Then Sadvasana Spurti Vijrumbhane Sati Vilinapya Hamadivasana Ati Prakrishta Yaruna Prabhayam Viliyate Sadhu Yatati Mishra. When the longing Sadvasana means the tendency or the commitment of the natural commitment of the mind to dwell upon reality, when that has very vividly arisen to expression, Spurti Vijrumbane Sati. Sati here means Samadhi. Okay. Spurti Vijrumbane Sati means when this Vasana is very strong and very vividly arisen, then alone these Vasanas and other things will, the other Vasanas and the disturbances will disappear. Just like how a very intense darkness is completely disappears in the radiant glow of the rising sun. No matter how dark the night was, when the sun arises, the darkness disappears. Similarly, when the Sadvasana becomes very strong, Viveka Kyate Avipravahanopaya, when the light of Viveka, it is like, Patanjali Yoga Sutra Bhashyam, the commentary on the Yoga Sutra says, by the practice of the 8 limbs of yoga, the flame of discriminative awareness becomes brighter. Jnanadiptiya Vivekakyati means it's like glowing. The Viveka is there naturally present in everybody, but the practice of yoga makes this flame brighter. It is like the room is dark. I bring one little small candle with this small flame there. Then you don't, and then that is also covered by some. Then there will be very dull. The light is not effective to reveal the nature of the room, reveal the reality, what is in the room. The light is not effective enough. But I open the curtains and everything, there is sunlight coming in. How bright the room is. So in the same way, that is why the example of the sun is given. So the knowledge or the Sadvasana means the commitment of the mind to dwell upon the truth must be so strong and it must be so vivid that the tendency of the mind to contemplate on Brahman is so alive in the mind, in its brightness, it destroys all the vasana, just like how the sun removes darkness instantly. That is right. Okay. So then tamas tamah kavya manartha jalam na drishyate sat yudite dineshe तथा अद्वयानंद रसानुभूतौ न वास्ति बंधो न च दुःख गंधः. I think I dealt with this before. न च दुःख गंधः. Not even the smell of sorrow will be there. I think I told this. I remember this. न च दुःख गंधः. Anyway, nothing wrong in seeing again. Darkness and its resultant problems are not noticed when the sun arises. In the same manner, Advayananda Rasa Anubhuta, when a person very clearly experiences the joy of the non-dual reality, the joy that results from the non-dual, Advayananda Rasa Anubhuta. Advaya Ananda means the joy or the sense of completeness that arises as a consequence of the non-dual realization. Here Ananda here means Sukha. It does not mean limitlessness. Here Ananda means joy, just the sense of being satisfied, uncaused, completely independent sense of satisfaction and peace and contentment, supreme sense of contentment, which is without any, which cannot be disturbed by anything. That is Advayananda Rasa. The Advayananda means that the essence of the
the completeness, when you realize the non-dual reality, which is the one which is complete in itself, that realization's essence left in the mind, that is the rasa. The taste of the, when a person takes the supreme satisfaction that arises out of non-dual realization, which is the non-dual, the knowledge of non-duality as one's true nature, when that understanding is very firm, that releases the sense of, supreme sense of satisfaction in the organism, in the mind. In the organism actually, it is not only in the mind, you will feel it in the body also. It's very, very strong. And the rasa, the taste left by that, the essence of that, that keeps the, when this has arisen in a person, there cannot be any bondage, nor can there be any trace of misery. Now, not even the slightest, not even the trace of sorrow will be there in the person. That is what it says. Now, how this will happen? How to get it? Comes the next verse. Drishyam pratitam pravilapayan sana sanmatramananda ghanam vibhavayan samahitaha san bahirantaram va kalam niyethaha sati karma vande. Drishyam pratitam. This world which is seen and perceived, pravilapayan sana, causing it to be reabsorbed back. Pravilapya means resolve it back into that from which it came. Cognitively resolve this world of objects into its source. Resolving this world back into its source. Sanmatram, the reality alone remains. Ananda Ganam means that which is solid joy. Solid joy. Ananda Ghanam means it is mass of Ananda. Ananda Ghanam. Why it is mass of Ananda? Because when you dissolve everything into the truth and truth alone remains, which means you alone remain. That is an experience of supreme contentment. So it is Ananda Ghanam because it is devoid of any sorrow. It is not bliss embodied. The person is not in ecstasy all the time. There is some ecstasy coming in the mind time to time. But here Ananda Ghanam means devoid of any sorrow, without any suffering. That is the meaning. Okay. Vibhavayan samahitah san. Samahitah means samadhi. Vibhavayan samahitah. The mind completely settled down in the contemplation of this. In the experience of this state of contemplation that results after you reabsorb the objective universe into its source through the contemplation. And when the mind is resting on that, on the reality, both in external and internal, bahi antaram va kalam nayetha, should pass one's time. One should pass kalam nayetha means spend your time. Live your time, sati karma bandehe, for any residual. For whatever is the remaining period of time lifespan that you have. That means whenever the mind creates name and form, resolve that name and form and the object back into its source from where it comes. Pravilapaya means when you say this is the effect. Effect comes from the cause. When the effect is resolved in the cause, what is referred as cause alone remains without causality, without effect. Okay, all parts are clay alone. Pot came from clay. Pot is the cause of clay. Now when I see all pot is clay, there is no cause-effect relationship anymore because there is no clay, there is no pot. Clay alone is. Clay is the reality alone. So Sanmatra. So here Sanmatram, Ananda Ghanam. Sanmatram means without the cause-effect relationship. Once you resolve the effect into the cause, the causality is also gone. There is no more causality. that which is alone is. So how do you do that? External and internal. When the mind is relating to external sense objects, resolve the sense objects and the reality of the external world back into Brahman, which is you. Internally, when the mind is creating all kinds of ideas, resolve that also into the absolute source of everything, which is you. And also, internally here means Annamaya, Pranamaya, Mamamaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. The different structures associating with which you create your individuality. Your individuality is created because of identification with the body. So, resolving the etam mannamayamatmanam upasangramati, etam pranamayamatmanam upasangramati comes Taittiriya Upanishad. Resolving the physical body back into the self, resolving the pranic body back into the self, resolving the mental body back into the self, resolving the thinking person back into the self, resolving the thinker back into the self, and resolving the sense of experiencer also, and remain purely as that supreme reality which alone is. That is what is meant to be. Internally means resolving the different sense of embodiments that arise. The different experiences of embodiment are resolved back into the source which is you. The different objects that you encounter through the sense faculties, those objects are external. Okay, I resolved myself into Brahman. What about that camera? What about this floor? What about the person who comes? They are also nothing but Prakriti. So I resolve everything. All the objects of senses are resolved externally into Brahman. The external world is resolved into Brahman. The internal world, which is nothing but different layers of my individuality, that is also resolved back into Brahman. And truth alone remains. You alone remain as the truth. And being established and firmly established in that, let the rest of the life go on. That means what? Don't worry about what happens to life. Let the life will go on according to Prarabdha. You be devoted to the contemplation of Brahman. That is what he says. Kalam Nayeta should pass the time for any residual Prarabdha. Should pass the time means, okay, now I alone am, then where is time? Who will pass the time? It is a way of saying, which means don't worry about anything. If you are worried about how to pass the time, how my life will go on, how I will survive, all this, then don't worry. All this is taken care by the Prarabdha. Your job is to be devoted to the contemplation on the truth of everything as the self, the Brahman, which is yourself. That is what is setting. To the exclusion of everything else. Ananya chintayanto mam yejanat paripasate tesham vidyabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. Those people who are devoted full time to the contemplation of the reality as contemplation on me, as not separate from Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, Yejanat Parviprasate. Those who worship me as not separate from them and completely without thinking about anything else devotedly, whatever they need to acquire and preserve, I take care. Yoga Kshemam Mahamyaham. Ishvara takes care of what needs to be acquired. The preservation of the body is taken care by Ishvara. In the middle of the forest, some tribal will come and give you food. In the middle of the 5-star hotel, if you don't have Prarabdha, you will not eat food. You will go hungry. This is the example that I have been giving all the time. I remember still, when I left house once and I was going to Tiruvannamalai, I was very thirsty. Actually, I just wanted some water. And I went into a house, I asked for water. They gave me milk. You don't ask for this kind of things happen, you know. And I found somebody who was renting, not even rented. They are given for free one small room to stay. There are these two boys, one fellow college boys, they are staying there, cooking for themselves, and then they are going and studying. It's part of some ashram. They gave me a place to stay, and they gave me food every day. And I could eat and simply do my practice and then come back and sleep. There is a place to sleep, there is a place to eat. I don't know anything, I don't know anybody there, and I was taken care of. This is called Ishvara taking care of what needs to be acquired and preserved. One need not worry about it. So when a person decides to devote to complete contemplation, life goes on. One need not worry about it. Ishvara will take care. It is a promise given by Ishvara in Bhagavad Gita. Then Pramado, suppose if you say, but Ishvara did not take care, I did not get what I want, you are not supposed to want anything. You are supposed to contemplate and Brahman. That's it. If you feel disappointed, Ishvara did not take care in a certain specific way. That does not work because you don't have any specific way. If a person does not bother about absolutely anything, the mind is not encouraging any duality. The mind is completely devoted to self-knowledge alone. Ishvara will take care. Pramado Brahmanisthayam. Now here comes a very, very important warning that is given. Pramado Brahmanisthayam na kartavyah kadachana. Pramada means negligence. Pramada means this is pramada. This is pramada. Brahmanistha should not give in to pramada. Don't give in to negligence and easy going with respect to contemplation. If once you have understood that you are Brahman, don't give in to negligence on being devoted to the contemplation on the truth of yourself. Should not give in to that. Pramadam should not be done. Inadvertence, I don't know what is that. Negligence basically. Pramado mrityurita tyaya bhagavan brahmanas sutaha. The son of Brahma said that pramada alone is death. This negligence and carelessness is death. Says who? Sanat Sujata. Sananda, Sanadana, Sanat Kumara, Sanat Sujata. The four mind-born sons of Brahma. If you see in Bhagavad Gita, I told, the Lord, when he manifested as the creator of Brahma, he created Marichi, Atri, Brigu, etc., the rishis, Marichya, Rishaya, the different rishis, Marichi onwards, the different rishis were born from the mind of Brahma, and to them the Vedic Dharma, the Pravritti Dharma was taught, the ritualistic Dharma was taught, portion. Then out of his mind were born Sanata, Sanadana, Sanat Sujata, Sanat Kumara, the four great sages who are the four students in front of Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti is sitting like this, and four students are sitting. Four very old people, so they have been with beard and everything. And Dakshinamurti is sitting there, young 16-year-old boy. Lord Shiva's incarnation. So, and these four people are the great sages who are devoted to Nivritti Dharma, Moksha Dharma. Jnana Vairagya Akshanam Nivritti Dharma. The Nivritti Dharma means the Dharma of withdrawing back to the source. The Dharma which is meant for moksha. The Dharma which is meant for prosperity and plenty and enjoyment. So the Dharma that is meant for prosperity, plenty and enjoyment was given to a set of rishis. The Dharma which is meant for moksha was given to a set of rishis, and they created that tradition of teaching and lineages. Okay. So now, here he is mentioning the son of Brahma, Sanat Sujata, one of the first teachers. That person has said, don't give in to pramada, do not give in to negligence and carelessness when it comes to Brahmanishta. Negligence is the death, nothing else. Why? You will see. For the wise, there is no greater danger than negligence about one's own real nature. Na pramada dhanarthonyo jnaninaha swasvarupadaha tato mohas tato handis tato bandhas tato vyatha. For the wise person, there is no great danger than negligence about one's own real nature. Na pramada anartha anyaha jnaninaha swasvarupataha. There is no danger for the jnani, for the knower of the self. There is no danger higher than carelessness or negligence on the truth about oneself. Tataha, from this what happens? Delusion arises, mohaha. Tataha ahandhi, from there arises the sense of being experiencer and the doer, ahankara, egoism, individuality, personality. Tataha, from this arises bandhaha, bondage. Tataha, vyatha, misery. Vyatha means wasting of oneself. Vyatha, that is vyartha. Here, vyatha means Yeah, you can say suffering. It's the cycle of suffering. So from carelessness comes what? Delusion. Delusion means what? Moha means you see the unreal as real and the real as unreal. You are confused about what is what. From moha comes what? Aham dihi. That means you take the body and the mind for when you are careless. Out of carelessness comes the tendency to confuse the body and the mind as oneself. When you confuse the mind and body as oneself and you are confused about what you really are, that is when the knowledge of what you are does not show. Moha means it's a kind of a covering up, like how the cloud covers the moon. Like that, moha is a certain force of the mind that covers that clarity. Even though you may know, it will not operate. That day after Shivaratri, morning when I wanted to do Gayatri, the Gayatri was not coming in the mind. I know Gayatri, everything, but mind is not able to articulate. So because of the sleep, because you did not sleep the whole night, there is a certain kind of a disorganization in the mind. And because of that, the articulation of the mantra was not clear. So then you do some pranayama, then the articulation becomes okay. Why? Because there is a certain force of the mind. So then what happens when you are negligent, when the buddhi is not firm in the knowledge, what happens? The buddhi is not quiet. The buddhi creates duality. That is, the buddhi does not keep quiet because of the vasanas, prarabdha, etc. One creates a sense of confusion about the nature of oneself. There is a tendency to forget what I am. Then because of that, aham dihi, the idea of myself, as a separate individual arises. Ahankara arises. When ahankara arises, what happens? Bondage arises. Aham dihi bandha. Why aham? What is aham dihi? Aham dihi means the I am, the ego is, they translate as egoism. Psychologists say I should not use the word egoism. So I will say the sense of individuality as oneself as a doer and the enjoyer. Doership and enjoyership. So aham dihi here means doership and enjoyership. Because doership and enjoyership arises, bandha, bondage arises. I want to keep doing some things, I want to avoid certain things, and I am very keen on acquiring certain things. So this alone is bondage, nothing else is bondage. Then from there arises all the struggle and suffering. It's like a Swamiji wanted to protect his kaupina. You know what is kaupina? Indian underwear. It's like you have a cloth like this and then you wear another cloth which is Indian underwear, unstitched underwear. Okay? Kaupina. Sadhus are supposed to wear only kaupina. So this Swamiji was such a Vairagya person. All he had was two kaupinas. One kaupina on him, another kaupina is drying. So every night what happens? One rat comes and takes the kaupina. He was worried about every day morning I had to go and search for this kaupina in the rat hole. It's very difficult. Then he had to go and find some other kaupina. So it became a problem. So the village people said, Swamiji, why don't you get a cat? If you keep a cat nearby, the kaupina was very important. No? Because kaupina became important, the Brahman knowledge was not so important. He could notice that there is a kaupina is going. So the kaupina became a worry. The moment that moha comes, the aham dihi comes, so once you are a little careless, this individuality comes and then out of that comes bondage. Once you encourage the individuality in something, okay, I should become the protector of the kaupina. So gets a cat. Then the cat is meow, meow, meow because it needs hungry. He is getting a little bit bhiksha. He eats once in a day. What the cat will do, the cat cannot eat a little bit of that bhiksha what he gets. He is not supposed to beg for more than 3 houses. You have all these rules. So then the cat started crying. And neighbors got annoyed. They said, Swamiji, why don't we, we can give milk, yes, but how long will we be able to give milk? If one day we are not able to give milk, what will happen? I think because of the cat is there, if he needs milk regularly, you need to get a cow. And somebody gave a cow. Swamiji does not know how to take care of the cow. So then one of the village girls came to take care of the cow. Then he got married to the village girl and then became a samsari. This is the story of the Swamiji who wanted to protect his kaupina. So this is how samsara proliferates itself. So don't be careless about contemplation on Brahman, because when you are careless in contemplation, when you give in to carelessness, what is there? One little bit. No? When you give in to that, then what happens? The individuality gets strengthened. When individuality gets strengthened, the structures of bondage increase. You put yourself into unnecessary knots and bondages. When you put yourself into unnecessary bondage, your suffering and struggle increases. And then suddenly you find there is no time for contemplation. I have to do this, I have to do that. Lot of commitments, and then you break your head. Why I started all these commitments? Because somewhere I thought that I have to acquire and preserve yoga kshema. I did not. Somewhere I forgot what I am, and I thought myself to be the doer and enjoyer, and then all this problem. So don't give in to negligence in contemplation. If the person is very firm in contemplation, such problems will not arise. Then again, if the person is not negligent in contemplation, but if the person is busy, the contemplation is steady, that does not mean person cannot be busy. Ramana Maharshi was very busy after some time. There was also a time when he devoted completely to make his contemplation steady. He was sitting in Padalingam for months together without food, without anything. And his body, the maggots were going inside his body like this. They took him out and took care of his body, and it took a long time for him to come out of samadhi because he was continuously absorbed. And then after that, he was practicing samadhi in different places in the hills. And after that, when the devotees ashram everything began, then he started focusing on the knowledge and how not to lose touch with the knowledge even while being normal. That is, then he focused on Sahaja Samadhi. Once Sahaja Samadhi became steady, then he was very busy, but the mind was always devoted to contemplation. Because the mind was always devoted to contemplation, the activities did not bind the person. So if you say, for example, in Drishya Viveka, Shankaracharya says the 6 kinds of contemplation, 3 external and 3 internal, 6 kinds of samadhis on the reality of oneself has to be practiced. Out of this, the knowledge becomes very steady. When the knowledge becomes very steady, he says, Yatra yatra manoyati tatra tatra samadhayaha. Yatra yatra manoyateha. Wherever the mind goes, there and there is samadhi or abiding in the knowledge of oneself. So you don't need a specific state of mind to abide in the knowledge of oneself. So if the commitment to the knowledge of oneself is steady and the negligence is not given here, even though there may be activities, they will not leave a trace on the mind. That is, such a contemplation is not possible unless you have devoted exclusive time for contemplation. Exclusive time for contemplation makes it possible for the mind to be committed to the truth even while the mind engages in activity. Even when things are to be done, when the activities are happening, when the body and mind is busy, the buddhi is steady in self-knowledge. So for such a person, there will be no delusion. Because there is no delusion, there will be no bond, there will be no sense of doership and enjoyership. When there is no doership and enjoyership, there is no sense of bondage. When there is no sense of bondage, there is no misery, even though there may be a lot of things. Then, Vishayabhimukham drishtva vidvansamapi vismritihi vikshepayati didhoshai yosha jaraniva priyam. Vishayabhimukam drishtva vidvansamapi vismritihi vikshepayati. The vismritihi, the forgetfulness, embraces even the wise man when it sees that his mind is intent on the objects. When the wise person, even a wise person, if the mind is very intent on an object of one of the 5 senses, that is when outward mind here means the mind, the buddhi that creates sense of difference instead of the buddhi that has the tendency to attribute substance to mithya. Mithya buddhi, that is when the mind is devoted to an object as an object of enjoyment. When the mind is intent, when there is a sense of keenness to associate with an object of one of the 5 senses. When the wise person, even a wise person, when his mind has the sense of keenness to to associate with an outside external object of the senses, Vismritihi means forgetfulness, comes and embraces him. Like how, like a woman who goes, a lover who embraces her beloved. This that means what? It is so intently forgetfulness comes and embraces his mind, so natural. It means what is so natural? If my mind has a tendency to dwell on a sense-based object, take care not to eat prohibited food. Control of your tongue alone is going to give you the freedom from the disease. It is relevant for a person who has taken the medicine. I cannot tell a person control of the diet alone is another fellow who doesn't have medicine. He hears this. Control of diet alone will cure me from the disease. It will not work. It will probably may have some placebo effect. But it may not, it will not work. The medicine has to work. So the medicine is Brahmajnana. The direct cause for moksha is Brahmajnana. The indirect supporting factor is the Vasanakshayam, or not indulging in different enjoyments and having the Brahmajnana alone as the source of all enjoyment. That is the intended thinking here. With this we finish and we proceed with the other ones from the next class onwards. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Immediately forgetfulness embraces the intellect. And then vikshepayati, it disturbs. Once the forgetfulness embraces, it disturbs this, that mind starts running towards hundreds of objects. And when the mind is running towards hundreds of objects, then the whole, why? Through the doshayihi means how the forgetfulness embraces doshayihi dwara, through the different defects in the intellect. Means some lack of clarity, some what are the defects, the vasana and the seed tendency of enjoyership. The seed tendency of seeing a particular object in a certain way. Somebody is a fan of Mozart music. In the middle of the contemplation, somebody is playing Mozart symphony. Falls. Immediately the buddhi creates. There is a tendency to enjoy. The moment there is a tendency, the moment I recognize the tendency to enjoy, the whole object-subject relationship and the whole process should be resolved back into the source, which is the reality, which is myself. But instead of that, if I allow the tendency to sustain for some time, forgetfulness of the true nature of myself embraces the mind. Through how does it embrace? Through the defect in the buddhi. What is the defect in the buddhi? Defect in the buddhi is the seed of the tendency of myself as the enjoyer of Mozart music. I like it's nice. Mozart music. The moment my buddhi says that, why? How it says? Because it is thinking of that Mozart music as something that is pleasing to me. This is a defect in the buddhi, which is a vasana. And this vasana will be there till the body and mind falls, or until you get complete steady contemplation. Through this, the forgetfulness embraces. When it sees, the mind is keen on an object. So, it should not be given any respite whatsoever. That's what he said. Yatha pakrishtam saivalam ksanamatram natishtati avrinoti tatha maya prajnam vapi phalammukham. Just as the algae, the moss on top of the water, when you move it, it comes and joins back again. Now, in the same way, even for a moment, one does not stay away from the sense objects. Means even for a moment one forgets one's real nature, and even for a moment one compromises the vairagya. even for a moment when a person compromises the Vairagya, the power of Maya, the illusion, covers up the buddhi. Even for a moment when you forget the commitment to the knowledge and when you don't sustain the Vairagya even for a moment, the power of Maya here means Avarana Vikshepa Shakti. The two powers which are the power that covers the reality and the power that projects multiplicity. Maya covers means what? It's not the power of illusion, they say. What is the power of illusion? It has two powers. Avarana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti. Avarana Shakti is the power that Avarana Mala, Vikshepa Mala. Avarana is the power that covers the reality. Suddenly you feel, I am the enjoyer, this is the object. The sense of duality comes. The individuality comes. It means the reality of yourself is covered up. Just like how the moment you separate, the moss covers back in the water. In the same way, it comes back. Even for a moment, if you compromise, Vairagya. So these are all different warnings that he is giving. And then, so if the mind ever so slightly strays from its ideal and becomes outgoing, then it goes down and down just like a ball inadvertently dropped on a row of stairs, bounces down the stairs. It's a fantastic analogy here. With this analogy, no, we have another few more verses. The beautiful analogy of a ball, You have a ball and you are standing on the stair. If you throw the ball down, as it falls, for every stair it gathers momentum. It falls in a certain speed and then it gains more and more speed and keeps going and it cannot be stopped. In the same way, Ishat Bahirmukham, when the mind enjoys or desires to be outward, then Nipatet falls down and down without any pramadataha. The negligence becomes more and more. When you indulge in the outwardness here means when you indulge in duality. When you indulge in the dualistic thinking, and when the mind dwells upon the objects of the senses with the dualistic sense of being a doer or enjoyer and the sense object being an object of enjoyment or suffering. So when you dwell upon the name and form instead of the reality, even for a second, immediately it increases the momentum of negligence even more. The negligence becomes even more. And then the negligence gains momentum. The more and more you dwell, the negligence gains momentum and it pushes the outward mind more. It pushes the dualistic thinking more. So the dualistic thinking starts gaining momentum and it cannot be brought back. Just like how a ball that falls down the stairs gains momentum as it falls more and more. So unless some break happens. That is why in our tradition we have stories where in Tamil we say Taduttu Aatkoludal, means the Lord makes an emergency intervention. He makes an emergency intervention and takes back the person into the track. The Guru makes an emergency intervention and takes the person back into track. This is called coming and putting a brake. The ball is going down and down and then somebody comes and stops it. Otherwise it's gone. So this is the grace of the Guru, they say. For example, we had a saint called Sundar. If you watch a movie, there is a movie about called Thiruvarur Selvan. It's a beautiful movie. Maybe one day if you have time you can watch. In that, one of the saints, the four great Shaiva saints called Sundara. Each Shaiva saint, he worshipped Shiva with a specific attitude. There was a very young person, Tirunjana Samandar. So he was a very young boy, 3-year-old boy. And he got a sudden sign of grace and then he started composing songs and he became a very devoted great saint. So the four saints were there. So he considers himself as the son of God. There was one person called Tirunavakarasar. He considered himself as the servant of the Lord. So different bhavas. There was Manikavasaka. He considered himself as the Lord himself. Ananya Bhava. Then you had Sakya Marga. This Sundara, he considered himself as the friend of the Lord. So now this Sundara, he must have been yoga brashta, whatever in the past life. And he's about to get married. When he's about to get married, an old man enters. Stop the marriage. And he shows one leaf, palm leaf. This is the document written by his grandfather that he and all his, his entire lineage, his children, grandchildren, they are all my slaves. My slaves. So this fellow is my slave. His grandfather has given an undertaking. So he cannot marry without my permission. He cannot marry. Come with me. What nonsense grandfather has given. Show me. Then he shows the palm leaf. He tears it and puts it in the fire. Ha ha ha. Now I am not bound with you. I am nobody's slave and wants to get married. I know that you will do this. That is why I gave you a plain leaf which is not written anything. The original is with me, very safe. Now this fellow is a ruffian and in your own town there is no justice. I want this matter to be settled in my town. And then or in a place where there is the court judiciary is very neutral. And then he drags him to some other town. And then they examine, he takes the original and then they examine the document and say yes, it is true. They verified with the handwriting of that Sundar's grandfather, and it happens to be true. And then they say yes, now you are his slave. The old man wins the suit and said, okay, come with me. Then he tells his wife and then starts walking with him, cursing his fate. No, stupid old man came and then he walks. Old man walks very fast. He could not walk. He starts complaining. Why are you walking so fast? I'm not able to. Because he's given to comforts. He lived a very comfortable life. He had a lot of girlfriends. Wearing gold and everything, and always goes only in a palanquin. Very rich person. So he could not walk in all these mountains and stones and self-complaint. Where you are dragging me? I am going to my town, Tiruvallur. And then he goes there, and he goes towards. Once he reaches the town, okay, where is your place? How much more I have to walk? You see there, that big building, that is my house. He shows the Shiva temple in that place. What, are you crazy? You are showing the Shiva temple. That is my house. Anyway, I know this is a crazy man, and he starts going with him. He goes to the Shiva temple. Who are you? Why did you do this? Why did you are taking me? He keeps on whining all the way. Wait, you will know. You are not able to recognize me because your eye is not open yet. And then he keeps going. And then, even now you don't recognize me, and then he goes into the Sanctum Sanctorum, and then stands in front of the Shivalinga and disappears into the Shivalinga, the old man. Then he understood it is the Lord who came and intervened and brought me out of samsara. This is the story. So when the ball rolls too much, if there is grace, there will be an intervention. If there is no grace, the ball will fall and go. So before rolling the ball, one should think whether I have enough grace in the account or not. One will not know. So never roll the ball, keep the ball intact. That means may you be devoted to contemplation. Don't count on chances. Because we have a promise in Bhagavad Gita. If a person undertakes commitment to self-knowledge and somehow in that life is not able to achieve, in the next birth I will personally take care of that person's whatever growth and supervise and make sure that he attains the self. So even the slightest effort in acquiring self-knowledge does not go waste. This Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. And it is recognized. It is recognized in many people's lives, including mine. Okay. So when the mind, so he says, it is just like a ball gaining its own momentum, and then you will be completely lost. Vishayeshu avishat Vishayeshva vishat chetah Vishayesh avishat chetah. The mind that turns towards things, Vishayaha means things, Indriya Vishayaha, the different things that pertain to the five sense faculties. The mind that turns towards the sense object, Sankalpayati, becomes very intent on enjoying them. Tad gunan, upon their qualities. Sankalpayati means starts dwelling upon the different qualities of the objects, and Samyak Sankalpana. From intentness of thinking arises desire to enjoy. Kama, from the From the desire to enjoy, the person pravartanam, from the desire to enjoy sprouts activity of the person. You have the same logic expressed in Bhagavad Gita. Sangat sanjayate kamaha, kamat krodo abhijayate, krodat smriti vibramaha, smriti vibramaha buddhi nasho pranashyati. So from repeated thinking about the repeated association with the sense object. So the mind that goes towards avishat chetaha. Avishat means the mind that the mind that enters the thing. When the mind enters the thing, means the sense impression comes and the mind takes the form of the sense object. The mind enters the object. Means that is the keenness. The buddhi entertains the object as something substantial. When the buddhi entertains an object of sense as something substantial, there is the thought and thinking and deliberation about the different qualities of the object. How is this object? Is it nice? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it beautiful? It is ugly? Is it useful? Is it not useful? Is it pleasurable or painful? All these different qualities of the objects in relationship with me. When that thinking is deliberated and sustained for some time, a desire for the object arises. When the desire is like Coca-Cola advertisement coming in the movie, Coca-Cola, then you go to supermarket, why not have one Coke? No? This is called repeated reinforcement. Most of the things in the West, including religion, works like this. You are a sinner, you are a sinner, you are a sinner. Keep on hearing. The person really believes I am a sinner. So this is how you keep on reinforcing. So the reinforcement about the qualities of something creates desire for the object, positive desire or negative desire of object, and from that desire comes corresponding activity. One is put into activity. So from the activity, what happens? Tataha Surupa Vibhramsho Vibrashtastu Patatyataha. From this activity comes Swarupa Vibhramshaha, confusion regarding one's own. Vibhramshaha means confusion, and confusion regarding one's real nature. Brahma, this is a very important word. The absolute reality is Brahma, Brahman. Okay, this is Bha. Brahma, when you say Brahman, means the confused person. Brahman means the one who is deluded and confused. So it is not Brahma, it is Brahma. Brahman, not Brahma, Brahman. Brahman is different, Brahma is different. So you should not say Bha for Brahman. It's Bha. So it is Brahma. Okay. So there is confusion when you are caught in activity from desire. There is a confusion in one's real nature. Vibrashtaha means the person who has deviated from the commitment to the self-knowledge falls down. That fallen patitasya, for that fallen person, vina nasham punaha na aroha ikshate. That person who has thus deviated falls, and the fallen person comes to ruin and is rarely seen to rise again. Is dead means that person's self-knowledge is dead for all practical purpose. It is hardly seen to rise again. It is not true. But it is told in this context to assert the danger in dwelling upon sense objects. So it is this should be considered as the negative stuti, how the positive the positive advertising or the positive reinforcement of the importance of reduction of vasana. The vasanas must be destroyed. This point was reinforced. Then vasanas destruction alone is moksha. It reinforces the importance of destruction of vasanas. Now here he is saying, this person, once he falls into enjoyment of the sense object and goes into activity based on desire, his person completely lost. That's such a person, one who has deviated from the path of the contemplation of the truth of oneself, Brahmanishta. Patitaha means the one who has deviated from the path is destroyed and is dead. He will not come back. It is very difficult to see the person coming back. Means what? It is like a warning, red light. don't go. So it is to be taken in that sense. So even if a person falls, somehow refuses to attain, the Lord will bring you back. Because it is not easy to be exposed to self-knowledge and also to attain self-knowledge. Here he is talking about a person who has already obtained self-knowledge but is negligent. So such a person, Lord's grace will bring him back. That is the promise. But that is not to be discussed here. This is the context where the importance of commitment is discussed. So in this context, it is relevant to say that if you are gone, it's gone. It's like the church telling, only one life. Otherwise, if you don't believe in Christ, you go to heaven, and if you believe in Christ, you go to heaven. If you don't believe in Christ, you go to hell, and that's it. Eternal hell will be, there is an unending supply of gasoline, and they will be burning you forever in hell. And your body will not get burnt also, you will only feel the burning sensation. No, this is called unending hell. Why they say? They thought, okay, if you say next life you will be fine, this Vasana, the fellow will say, okay, I will take care of next life. This life it will be here. Only one life. If you leave, you are gone. This is psychological threatening to make the person committed to the Dharma. Otherwise, the fellow will not get committed to the Dharma. So that is it. But it got too much exaggerated. It is in the same way he is saying, if you leave the path of self-knowledge, you are finished. Now that you have realized, don't go back into sense objects. If you go back into enjoyment and activity, finished. Your self-knowledge is gone, you cannot come back. It's lost forever. Such a precious gift, From all that life, you got a human birth. From there, you got the life of Brahmana. From the life of Brahmana, you got exposed to the Vedika Dharma. From Vedika Dharma, you got scholarship. From scholarship, you got the knowledge. And from the knowledge, you got discrimination and dispassion. And then from there, it has crystallized into the Brahma Jnana. Now, having come this far, don't go back into indulgence. If you are gone, it gains momentum like a ball and you will not come back. This is commitment to the knowledge. Sankalpa varjaye tasmat sarvanarthasya karanam apathyani hi vasthuni vyadhigrasto yathosrujet. Sankalpam varjayet tasmat sarva anartham karanam. Sankalpam varjayet. Sankalpam means let me do this, let me enjoy this, I want this. Having we do sankalpa, mo partha samasta durdakshat bhara, all that we say, this is sankalpa. And this sankalpa means doership. Here sankalpa means the resolve in the mind to enjoy or do something. That means sankalpa of considering an object as an object of enjoyment or suffering. Sankalpa for a personal will. Sankalpam varjaye means give up any kind of personal will. Sarva sankalpa sannyasi yogarudah katha uchyate. The person who has given up all sense of personal will has, thus such a person, Sarva sankalpa sannyasi, the one who has renounced all personal will, is the one who is firmly established in yoga. Sisthita prajna, in the different qualities of the person who is enlightened, the one who is established in yoga, the one who is committed to the knowledge. Different qualities are said. This is Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi. The person has given up all Sankalpa. In Sannyasa Yoga it comes. So the person who has given up all Sankalpa, the same concept is discussed here. Sankalpa means let me do this, let me enjoy that. Desire. Here Sankalpa means desire. Personalized desire, will to enjoy, will to do. With a sense of doership and enjoyership. Okay, he is not talking about karma yogic attitude here. Here he is talking about doership and enjoyership in the sense of a normal doership and enjoyership. That is the sankalpa. So sankalpa varjayet. Because from this sankalpa alone all the stupidities arise. Anartha, sarva anartha means all the... This sankalpa is the source of all the troubles and source of all the things that are counterproductive. Anartha here means those factors which are counterproductive for liberation. which are not valuable for liberation, which are of negative value for the purpose of liberation. All those factors are caused by this sankalpa to enjoy or do. So give up all sankalpa. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam praja, 18th chapter Bhagavad Gita, it is giving up all the dharmas. Take refuge in that one truth. Mamekam sharanam praja. Take refuge in that one truth of me. Mamekam, me, the one. Take refuge in the one me. Means here the Lord, the truth, the one truth about me. When the Lord says, the one truth about Ishvara is the Advaita Jnanam. That Ishvara and I are not separate. The truth about myself. The truth about the Atma. When you take complete refuge in the truth of the self, to the exclusion of every sankalpa, that is called as being firmly established in the knowledge. Contrarily, if you encourage sankalpa, doership and enjoyership, it gives rise to all kinds of desires and the consequences and actions and vasanas which lead to the samsara and that which takes you away from the moksha, which is your swarupa. Because sankalpa takes you away from your swarupa, your true nature. Your true nature is without sankalpa. Atma akriyaha. The self is devoid of any action. The self is not the doer, the self is not the enjoyer. So when you entertain a sankalpa, that very moment you have lost yourself because you have lost touch with your true nature. What is moksha? Moksha is your own nature. So when you have lost touch with your true nature, you have lost track with moksha. That's what it means. Sarvanarthasya karanam. Apathyani vasthuni vyadigrasto yathot. How you should do this? Just like how a person who is afflicted by desire, it's a fantastic analogy, by disease, fantastic analogy. A person who is afflicted by desire, how that person will keep away from prohibited food. Apatyanihi, pathya means is a diet given for, if you go for homeopathy, they will tell you, okay, you are taking medicine for diabetes, homeopathy medicine, don't drink coffee. I had a neighbor, an old man who was having diabetes and diabetes was not getting cured. I said, why don't you go to homeopathy? It's very easy. Not all these things and just small 3-4 sweet tablets you can just put in your mouth and enjoy. And it's very effective in the long term. Yours is only in the beginning stage. And he said, homeopathy I will not go. Why? Because he asked me not to drink coffee. So I will not go to homeopathy. So if a person is very devoted to cure the disease, in Ayurveda, when you go for a treatment, they will recommend the pathyam. So when you go for, let us say, I have a lot of acne, or I have a lot of heat in the stomach or something like diarrhea, whatever, they will say, don't eat spicy food, avoid spicy food. So for a person to recover from heavy diarrhea or acne, the diet given is don't eat spicy food. So don't eat spicy food, include a lot of butter in your food. This is considered as pathyam. Pathyam means a specific diet which goes side by side with the treatment. So apatyam means that which is not included in the pathyam, that which is contrary to the diet discipline prescribed for a treatment. How a person afflicted with a disease, who is keen to recover from the disease, who is undergoing a treatment, will keep away from the food that is prohibited. In the same manner, keep away from sankalpa. What is the treatment? Brahmajnana. What is the disease? Samsara. Samsara is the disease for which the medicine is Brahmajnana. With Brahmajnana, the medicine will not kick in. It will not. See, I could give you all kinds of medicines, but if I don't maintain the right kind of diet and if I don't if I keep taking all the prohibited, I have cancer treatment, I keep smoking, I keep drinking Coke, I keep eating McDonald's burger, then how my cancer treatment will work? It will not work. So in the same way, how a diseased person, a person with disease undergoing a treatment should consciously avoid the object which is not in the prescribed diet, even though he may have a tendency. So a person who is committed to Brahmajnana for the purpose of moksha, which is freedom from the disease called samsara, must keep the prescribed diet, must keep away from the prohibited food items. What is food? All that goes through the 5 sense faculties is the food. Sankalpa is the prohibited. I want that enjoying the objects of the senses with the sense of enjoyership and doership is the prohibited food. You are not supposed to enjoy that. You are supposed to enjoy the Brahma Jnana alone. The result of the contemplation on my nature as Brahman. The result of the contemplation on my nature as Brahman is the supreme satisfaction. Atman evatmana tushtaha sita prajnastadochyate. The one who is satisfied in by oneself alone. That satisfaction is the food I am supposed to enjoy. Other than that, I don't look for any other enjoyment. The person lives on the joy of the truth of oneself alone. No? So, the person's mind does not entertain any other joy from any other thing. So, that is the prohibited food. So, Vasana Kshayam here is not the direct result of for moksha. Here, destruction of vasanas here is also pointing out something. It is a uparikaran, it is a helpful factor for the medicine to work. Yoga tattva darshana upaya. Yoga is the helpful indirect support factor for the vision of the reality. So here is the process of yoga for a person who has the medicine of self-knowledge in his hand. In order for this self-knowledge to work, one should provide the right conditions. So the Vasana Kshayam indirectly leads to moksha by strengthening self-knowledge. That is the meaning. Vasana destruction alone is not moksha. Vasana destruction, when the self-knowledge is present, Vasana destruction is moksha. I have given you the medicine. Medicine has to work. So what I will say, now for you, the cure is only keeping your diet. Now that you have